10 teams to go on my road to predict all 131 teams this college football offseason. Guys, we are getting down to it. We're almost done. The final conference we're doing is Conference USA, and we're moving on to the Rice Owls. Now, Rice is a team last year that, I think surprised quite a bit of people. They were able to win quite their fair share of games in 2022. Yet, when you go ahead and take a look at this Rice team, it is a Rice team that is losing a lot of talent, losing a lot off of last year's team, and there are some holes they're going to have to fill. But again, last year's team kind of set a new expectation for Rice. So will Rice be able to win possibly even more games than they did in 2022? Or will this team prove to have a worse record and maybe take a step back from where they were a season ago? What's up, Tailgaters? My name is Tailgate Nate, and welcome to my channel. I'm predicting all 131 teams this college football offseason, which means, guys, I'm doing your favorite team. Chances are I've already done them. If your favorite team is the team in Conference USA, no worries, that video is coming. But hey, in case your favorite team is not, hit the subscribe button, ring the bell. I do videos during the season as well. And go ahead, look through my channel. I got playlists on there where you can find your favorite team. Now, the fans of the Rice Owls out there, you guys are going to know this team a lot more than I do. So if you feel like I missed something, you want to add something, please feel free to leave your thoughts in the comment section down below. I'd be happy to hear what you guys have to say. Let's talk about Rice in 2022. My 10th ranked team in the Conference USA coming in to the 2022 college football season. Now, last year, Rice, in my opinion, was a little bit of a shock to me. At least they were 4-8, 3-5 in conference, and it was at times a fairly solid football team. Now, the offensive stats aren't going to jump up off the board at you. In fact, they were still bottom 3 in terms of yards per game in the conference last year. 360 yards per game last year with only 21.5 points per game. And defensively, this team had problems as well. 435 yards per game with around 36 points per game allowed against some of the worst marks in the conference last year. So how this team won 4 games? Well, I couldn't quite tell you. Again, I did not pay too close attention to Rice last year. But after looking back, they had a lot of solid players last season who put up some really good stats. And unfortunately, a lot of those players are going to be gone this upcoming season. Jake Constantine at the quarterback position is gone. Had 1,622 yards, 8 touchdowns, 7 interceptions, and 61% completion. But you said they put up good stats. Well, I never said what positions they were, but Jake Constantine was at times a fairly solid quarterback for this program. The stat line you would have liked to see be a little bit better, but hey, Constantine was what he was, and now is no longer a part of this Rice program. In the running back room, well, your second leading rusher and Callan Griffin is gone. Had 400 yards flat with 2 touchdowns a season ago for this team. You're also losing a running back tight end duo in Jordan Myers. Yeah, don't really see a lot of running back tight end duos, but anyways, 338 yards and 8 touchdowns on the ground for Jordan Myers. And then through the air was this team's 4th leading receiver with 278 yards on 27 catches and a touchdown. By the way, was the team's 3rd leading rusher. So you do lose that production, and you lose production as well in the pass catching room with Jake Bailey and August Petrie, the 1st and 3rd leading receivers on this team. Bailey had 714 yards, 2 touchdowns, and Petrie had 494 yards and 3 touchdowns. Couple tight ends gone as well in Robert French and Jaeger Bull. On the defensive side, Elijah Garcia leaves that defensive line. Had 64 tackles, 4 sacks last year. That 64 tackles tied for the team lead with another player that is leaving this team. We'll talk about him here in a little bit. Anthony Montero and Desmond Baker are a couple names you'll see leave that linebacker room. Montero had 60 tackles last year, 2 sacks. That was 2nd on the team were those 60 tackles. And then, the other player that helped lead this team in tackling was Naeem Smith, who had 64 tackles as well last year. And then Adrian Bickham is another name gone off the defensive back grouping there as well. So taking a look at some players that they have coming back, the quarterback battle figures to be kind of a 3-way type battle position. TJ Mcmahon, Wiley Green, and even former Nebraska and Louisville player Luke Mccaffrey is here as a quarterback wide receiver duo. Figures to play more wide receiver this upcoming season, but did have 313 passing yards last year. 2 touchdowns, 4 interceptions is not great, but Luke McCaffrey figuring to get playing time as a wide receiver this upcoming season, while TJ McMahon and Wiley Green battle it out for that starting quarterback spot. Now, Wiley Green did have more reps last year, had 414 yards, 4 touchdowns, 3 picks, to Mcmahon's 191 yards, 2 touchdowns, and 1 pick. But on ourlads.com, that's the depth chart site I use, TJ Mcmahon is leading that depth chart right now at the starting quarterback position. Who knows what's going on in fall camp with this team? I think either of those options are solid enough for Rice to start at quarterback. In the running back room, well, Ari Broussard returns as that leading rusher with 569 yards, 3 touchdowns from last year, and Cameron Montgomery, who returns to this team at 256 yards and 2 touchdowns last year. In the wide receiver room, along with Luke McCaffrey, who didn't really get that many catches last year, but again, figures to play more of a wide receiver role this year, Cedric Patterson comes back at 583 yards, 6 touchdowns, team's second leading receiver from last season. Otherwise, Sam Crawford, Isaiah Esdale are a couple names transferring in to this program. In the tight end room, well, Jack Bradley comes back, should be that team's leading tight end. On the defensive side, Ekena and Achukwu is back on the defensive line, had 5.5 sacks last year, which led the team. Also, Trey Schumann back on the defensive line. Otherwise, in the linebacker room, Josh Percy, Myron Morrison are a couple names that come back for this team. Kenneth Orji is a name that comes back there as well, kind of a defensive line, a linebacker defensive back combination type player. And then, speaking of defensive backs, you have Gabe Taylor, Kirk Lockhart, and Jordan Dunbar that are going to be names coming back for this team. Looking at the Rice schedule here, I mean, wow, what a gauntlet they have to go through in non-conference play. And every conference game, I mean, look, those are all teams within their own conference that can push for a spot in a bowl game this upcoming season in Conference USA. When you take a look at what they have to play in non-con, I mean, just 3 super-duper hard games. You got to go on the road to play USC, and then you get Louisiana, albeit you get them at home, and the Raging Cajuns did lose a lot last year, but so did this Rice program. And then on the road at Houston, that could be the best team in the group of 5 right there. And then your other non-conference games, a home game against McNeese, which probably should end up being a win for Rice this season, although McNeese, a fairly solid FCS opponent. When you take a look in conference play, you have home games against UAB, the Blazers, Charlotte, UTEP, and UTSA. Games on the road against FAU, Louisiana Tech, Western Kentucky, and North Texas. So diving in a little bit deeper into this Rice schedule, you're going to have a tough time winning any non-conference game this year. I think even that game against McNeese can give Rice a run for their money. Now, should Rice win the game? I believe that they will. But being able to win any other of these non-conference games is a tall ask. I mean, going against USC on the road with how much talent that team has coming into it this upcoming year, there are big expectations in Southern California, and I think they're going to be met. Well, not necessarily in full, but I think to some extent they're going to be met this upcoming year. I think USC is going to be really, really good. I still think Louisiana is going to be really good even with all they've lost, and maybe that's, besides McNeese, your most winnable game in non-conference play for Rice, but still, that's a very hard game for Rice to win. And then that road game against Houston, who again could be the best team who could be the best group of 5 team out there, could get into the New Year's Six bowl game as the group of 5 representative. In conference play, lots of hard games here. UAB, who ever since bringing their football program back, have been really, really good and have had, I believe, over a 600 winning percentage at UAB. So that's a Blazers team you got to watch out for. They're one of the favorites in Conference USA, much like UTSA down there as well. Also one of the favorites. They get both those games at home. Some other games at home they get are Charlotte and UTEP. 2 teams that respectively can push for a spot in a bowl game this year. Charlotte, a team I think people got to watch out for. And then UTEP, a team that loses some from last year, but I think is still being underrated. There are good players on that UTEP team. You gotta play North Texas on the road. That's going to be a hard game to win right there. Western Kentucky on the road. Look, Western Kentucky loses a lot from last season, yes. But they have enough coming back and enough coming in to where I feel like that's still going to be a solid team in Conference USA this upcoming year. And then FAU on the road, that's a team under Willie Tiger that probably should have won more than they did last year. And Louisiana Tech, same thing. They probably should have won more games than they actually did a season ago, and both those teams are still going to be solid teams coming into Conference USA in 2022. I don't do game-by-game predictions. I do a more percentage-based outlook. Tell me predict a team's record. So if the game is in red, I just don't see you winning the game. The game is in orange. Well, I still don't see you winning, but it is college football and upsets can happen. Yellow are your 50-50 or high upset potential games. Games in yellow-green are games that, well, you should win, but hey, watch out for the team on the other side of the ball. In games in green, I have you winning. USC, Louisiana, Houston, I don't think are going to be wins for this Rice team in non-conference play. And then McNeese at home there. I have that game in yellow-green. I think Rice may have their struggles in that game, but I do expect Rice to be able to pull out that win. So starting out the year 1-3, probably ending up going to be the most likely scenario for this Rice team. And then once you get in Conference USA, guys, I think it's going to be really tough to find any sort of win for this Rice program in conference play. I mean, in my opinion, you're not going to beat the likes of UAB, FAU, UTSA. Those are probably the three favorites in Conference USA. I think they're going to have tough times against Charlotte and UTEP at home, although, hey, that very well may be where you find this conference win. Otherwise, a road game against Louisiana Tech, that could be your win right there with how much Western Kentucky loses. Who knows how much they might struggle this upcoming season. They're also losing, hey, that offensive coordinator in Zach Kitley, so they may struggle this upcoming year. And also, I don't think you're going to beat North Texas on the road. I know DeAndre Torrey leaves that team, but there's still a lot of nice pieces there on that North Texas team, offensively and defensively. Overall, when I look up and down this Rice schedule, I do see a win in non-conference play that comes against McNeese. And I think it is going to be tough. Tough for this Rice team to find a win in conference play with the schedule they have this year. I just don't like the way this team sets up. I don't like their schedule. I don't see them winning 4 games again in 2022. Yet I do see them winning a game somewhere down the line in conference play. I'm just not confident that this Rice team is going to be able to get a whole lot done this year. I got them at 2-10. Now, I think best case scenario is 5-7. If you really stretch things out, I think more likely getting back to 4-8 is that ceiling cap for this team. I mean, with losing some playmakers on offense, some of your better defensive players are gone as well. And this is the Rice team that has a lot of moving parts this offseason. Who knows what Rice will look like? They were competitive in this conference last year, but with the conference slate they have this year, I think it's going to be tough for them to find even one win. I do think they get a win in Conference USA play, but I just don't like the way that this team finishes out the year. I got them at 2-10 in 2022. That's going to do it for my prediction on the Owls. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section below, and please be sure to like, comment, subscribe. It helps support the channel. Remember to play hard, but tailgate harder. I'll see all you guys in the next video. Goodbye.